Hey, hello everyone. Welcome to the 10th episode of VspireLabs. Here at VspireLab, we aspire to inspire your startup journey and also equip you with the necessary knowledge for you to succeed. Today with us, we have the famous Kenneth Ho from Beam, who will be sharing with us on why startups fail. Actually, one of the guys asked me, why not talk about why startups can succeed? But I told him we already spoke about it in our past 9 episodes. Now we're going to talk about why startups fail. I think Kenneth is a very apt person to talk about this because of his experience in running a few other businesses, right, previously. So without further ado, let's welcome Mr. Kenneth to give his, to do a brief introduction on himself, as well as give his, share his thoughts on why startups fail.
Sure. So hi everyone. Thanks for having me here today. So I'm Kenneth, and I'm the founder of Beam. So Beam is basically an online hub for business.
Okay.
And it's very funny because we built it by accident. We never planned to start doing something like this. We actually built it because we realized that there's a lot of people who are trying to start companies, and they need a lot of support, they need a lot of connections, and this came about when we started running small events.
Alright. So you started out with running events.
Yeah, so actually I used to attend a lot of events. I was building another company that didn't go so well previously. And so I was kind of looking around to connect with more people, to get support.
Okay.
So I joined a few events, and the problem was that a lot of these events were not consistent.
Meaning?
Meaning they ran an event, but after it they stopped, and then there was a different event, and so we were like, okay, maybe we should do something consistent.
Yes.
Yep. So
one more thing that I found out that maybe it's related, that they'll have like a boot camp, startup weekend, people come, they're all gung-ho, they're all like energetic.
Right.
After that, they go back home. For a week, they'll still be active in their WhatsApp group. Then everything just dies off.
Yeah, I think that is kind of normal for a lot of events because it's usually like one time, right? And then after that ends, it's kind of up to the person to go and
do I still want to do this?
Exactly.
So what will be your idea to actually continue this feeling of energy and synergy to leading up to creation of a product?
I think, well, I don't think I have the right answer for this, but like, like when people come to events, one of the things that they gain out of an event is they get a lot of networks, right? They connect with a lot of people, and I think one of the very important things after an event is to allow people to reconnect effectively, and try to form collaborations after that. So you have to find like kind of like-minded people, and that's why the focus of the event is very important. If you're doing an event for investors, you want to bring investors to the event. If you're doing a business event or startup event, you want to bring people who are in the startup space.
Yes.
And try to mix it a little bit with, say, developers, some designers, and people who could contribute to building a company. Right. So I think it's kind of broad, but we try to do that.
So like example, you put up an event that you're going to co-host with someone else. Do they get the right reach of customers, audience that you're talking about? Like some investors, some startup founders, some developers. Are they actually coming, or you have to still like go out and ask them to come join your events?
Oh, you mean today?
No, like example, your previous events.
Well, usually it really depends on the event. So we're entrepreneurs for entrepreneurs. So we try to do events for the business world. And so it really depends on what entrepreneurs need. So for example, we may have a topic on, say, how do you raise money, right? How do you raise funds for your business? And it will appeal to a certain demographic.
Right, not everyone.
Not everyone, but we just try to spread the word, and we'll see whether people want to turn up. Usually we have a certain number of people that will come, maybe a couple hundred.
Okay. So I think we jumped too much. Could you just like briefly introduce yourself, like how you got into this, like before this, what were you doing, and a little bit about your background?
Yeah, sure. So actually, I started business when I was like 17.
17.
So I was like living in another country at that time. Yeah. So I was in Japan at that time, actually. Yeah. So I needed some money at that time, and I was new to Japan, and I didn't really speak Japanese. So I tried to find a part-time job to actually like make some extra income, and nowhere would hire me because I couldn't.
You didn't speak Japanese.
Yes, exactly. So even McDonald's wouldn't hire me, right?
I can't even. I can flip a burger, but I don't know how to say it.
Yeah, but most of the time I think you're at the front at the start, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So I joined a community that taught people English.
All right.
So we did it on the weekends, and it was,
Uh-huh.
I think it was 2 hours on Saturdays and Sundays.
Okay.
And they paid 400 yen, which is about $4 at that
Okay.
time.
To teach people English.
Well, I didn't really teach anything because like I don't speak Japanese at that
Okay.
time, so I just spoke to them in English, and they would speak to me in Japanese. And,
Try to
like,
learn from there.
We try to figure out what each other's saying, and so that was kind of how it started, right? And I actually had a goal, right? I needed to come back to Malaysia for something.
Okay.
And so I had to buy a plane ticket, and I needed enough money.
All right.
And calculating how fast I would make enough money to come back, teaching English was just
wasn't the right solution.
So I
Okay.
thought, okay, we need to find another way to do this. And at that time, I think it was, I think what, 13 years ago?
13
12 to
years
13
ago,
years
okay.
ago. So there was no Facebook that time. The internet was relatively kind of, newer, and a lot of websites were popular. There was no mobile, right?
Yeah,
So,
mostly the
so
websites.
I thought, okay, maybe I should sell something on the internet. And I found that there was this community of people who use forums,
Forums.
Yep.
Something like Lawyer.net.
Like Lawyer.net, right? And so people wanted to start their own forum, but they didn't know how to design their website.
Okay.
So I started out by making designs for them. It was pretty shit at first because I was really
Okay,
bad at
most things
design,
are shit at first.
And eventually, I was quite surprised because someone actually wanted to buy what I had, right? So I was like, okay, maybe this is a way to make some extra income, and I started selling templates.
All
And
right.
that was how I started out.
Okay.
And eventually, a lot of people kind of liked the templates, so they started stealing the templates. They started reselling the templates.
Yes, yes.
So I was like,
yes.
okay, this is not going to work because every time I produce something, someone's just going to rip it.
Yes.
So why not learn programming, right? So I learned a
Okay.
little bit of programming so that I could build some software.
Okay, like a
And-
plugin.
Yeah, like plugins for the forum, But even then, they could somehow decode it.
Yes.
But that was kind of how I started.
Okay,
I did
okay.
coding for the forum software, and I sold it to make some extra income.
Oh, so that's like a real long time ago.
Yeah,
13
that was really
years.
long ago. So that was kind of how I started. And when I came back to Malaysia after I graduated, most of what I did online was kind of depleting.
All right.
Things don't last that long. And so a bunch of friends of mine got together to start a real business, like a real conventional business. We had an office. We were in the education
Training,
business.
okay.
So I did it for about
Training for IT?
no, it's more financial related
Financial,
courses.
okay.
And I did it for about 2.5,
All
3
right,
years.
all right,
yeah.
okay.
And I sold some of my shares off at that time. And so that was when I started going into angel investing. So I did a bit of angel investing for maybe about 1.5 years, 2 years. Yeah.
Okay. So you have a broad understanding of the whole industry, from creating your own product to actually financing someone. So
Well, I did a lot of smaller stints along the way, but I think these are the two main things. Like
I
how I
understand,
started, and then I
yes.
started another business previously. And so I was angel investing in quite a number of companies.
So-
And the irony is that all of the companies failed. They all burned.
so like you're the right person to actually talk about this.
Yeah, so I kind of
So
seen
like
like
wives
companies
and-
dying and my own company dying.
So did you learn along the way like similar things happening in the companies that caused their downfall?
Yeah, well, generally it's there's many reasons why companies fail, and it's quite broad. But the general reason why they fail is because they run out of money.
Run out of money.
And usually, when they're on the verge of running out of money, there's usually a lot of pressure on them. And so what happens is the team breaks down under pressure. And
Team breaks. Could it be a burnout as well?
well, for my case back then, I invested in about 6 companies. So they were very new companies. I didn't have that much money to invest in so many things.
All right.
So I invested really early, and at that point in time, they were still trying to figure out their product. They're still trying to figure out how to sell it.
That was too early then.
Yes, and so that's at the stage where it's hard, really hard to go in, right? I mean, it's easy to put money in, but it's really hard to really to grow the company.
Okay,
So I actually realized that they were failing, and I thought, okay, maybe I should try doing it myself. Right? Maybe I should try start my own startup, right? And so I started a social media type company.
Social media.
This was about 2.5 years ago.
This was the rage. Everyone wanted to be the next Zuckerberg.
Well, it's not social networking per se,
social-
but
social
it was more
media
of like
based.
an app for video sharing.
Oh,
And
video sharing content.
So
Okay.
I started because I wanted to capture some of the Southeast Asian space and maybe sell it to a bigger competitor back then.
So you had an exit plan
Yeah.
already.
Not really. When I started it, it wasn't really to sell it, but along the way, I thought maybe someone would want to buy this.
Okay.
And so that company didn't go so well because it was kind of in the video sharing, social media space, and cost is really high, and it's hard to fight in that space. Yeah.
So once like creating a content, other thing is the distribution of content. Both of them.
We were not so much in the content creation space. We were more in the distribution platform. So acquiring users is it's something that is really hard. And even if you could acquire a lot of users, you have to deal with the cost.
Right.
And social media is one of those spaces where you don't really make much money until you have the base. Right. So you need to get the base, which costs a lot of money, before you can make a lot of money. Right.
Yes.
And so along the way, you have to raise money, and so I went down the path of trying to raise money as well, and that was really tough. I remember there was a lot of rejection. It's normal. But I remember it was kind of painful, and we were burning out money.
Could it be due to timing? Like that was 2 years back then. Now, if you had done the same thing, would more people have supported?
I think it'll be harder.
It'll be harder.
Today, there's more competition. Social networking space is very saturated today. I think almost every age group has been targeted today.
I see.
So like, if you want to target anyone below 18, Snapchat owns that space, right? Then anything above 18 is Instagram and Facebook, right? And then Facebook owns most of the communication platforms. So
it's like the central hub. And then through Facebook, you have that different features.
Yes. So it's tough to fight in. If you read Art of War, you don't fight someone head on, right? And this guy's way more capitalized than you. You're not gonna win, right? So
the flanking. That's Sun Tzu talks about. Okay. Besides, like you said, you had a few setbacks from running out of money initially. What other reasons do you think startups fail?
Oh wow, that's a lot. But I read somewhere that more than 70% of companies actually die from internal problems than external problems. I mean, if you look at Uber, right? Like Uber is not something that it's internal, right? So a lot of companies die from internal problems and struggles. One of them is running out of money. Another one could be a lack of direction.
Lack of direction.
It could be pressure from investors sometimes.
But lack of direction, like I see many companies actually pivot over time. So they had a different direction maybe to go towards this side, and it took a 180-degree turn and going backwards.
Yeah, because sometimes you have to realize that whatever you're doing might not work.
Yes.
And the whole idea of never giving up is kind of stupid if you're going to right. So you've got to keep finding something that works, and you don't know what that is sometimes in the beginning until you have to keep trying repetitively. But you might find it. And once you might find it, so that's when you kind of pivot. You found your market fit, and then that's when you start going along that trajectory to generate more revenue or grow the company.
So let's say you're going in a growing part with some profits, and then do you still test other markets at the same time?
Well, I think it depends on the company and how much resources they have. So for us, we are more focused. We tend to focus only on one or two things, but I think when we have more capacity to do other things, we would definitely try other things.
So a company would need a specific goal that it's trying to achieve.
Well, most of the time, companies set up with a goal in mind, right? They usually have a product or a service that they try to bring some kind of value, like maybe it's food delivery or something. But once they launch this food delivery thing, they realize that maybe the market doesn't adopt it to what they expect, right? Maybe they didn't do enough marketing, or maybe the marketing angle wasn't right, or maybe the product fit wasn't there. And so they have to try a different angle. Okay, maybe we put more money into marketing. Okay, it doesn't work. Maybe we put more money into changing the product, right? Let's try to sell sweets. Or let's try to sell parties, or sell a different kind of product. And then there's actually a market here that wants it. Then they start deploying more of their resources into that
new market.
But sometimes, one of the things I realize about a lot of new companies is that they brand themselves too niche, like Malaysian football app, and then it turns out that no one wants football apps, right? But then someone wants a basketball app, and so they have to change their entire branding just to make it for this, new.
That will take another 2-3 years actually for the branding, right?
I mean, not so much of that, but they just kind of have to redo a lot of things, restart a lot of things, So it's just a waste of time. And time is basically the most important thing, especially when you have no revenue, right?
Okay. Speaking of earlier, coming back earlier, the product, you have to change products. Is it because that they wanted to sell what they wanted to sell instead of giving what the customers wanted?
That happens a lot because maybe there's a lack of validation, right? So I think that this is great.
Yes, I think I came up with an overnight idea.
Yeah. And sometimes you get obsessed with this idea. This is going to be great, right? And so you launch this thing, and many times because you believe so much in the idea, you take a very long time to actually roll it out. And when you do, it doesn't really take off, and then you're like, oh, I don't really want to change because I believe so much in my idea. But the reality is that maybe sometimes you're wrong, right?
You just have to accept that sometimes you're wrong.
Yeah.
Okay. Speaking about internal problems earlier, what are the types of internal problems you have seen?
So many. So sometimes when you're running out of money, other colleagues can't, they, usually in a startup, you're taking a very low pay, right?
Yes.
In exchange for, say, some stocks, equity, right?
Equity.
And if you're paying this guy less than average and you're running out of money, you might have to pay him even less than average. And so not everyone can stay in the team,
Right.
And when money is lower, commitment drops, right? And when commitment
Motivation
drops, the quality of what you're producing drops, or maybe you just don't produce anything.
And this guy might have to take on a second job maybe, or do a freelance job.
So maybe his time drops, or maybe everyone's morale just drops, That's one. There's also the other spectrum where you have a lot of money because you've been funded, but funding brings another set of problems because if you raise money prematurely, then you are subject to a lot of pressure by investors. I mean, a lot of investors today, especially the institutional investors, venture capital.
Yes, venture capitalists.
They invest, and there's a lot of inflation that takes place in the funding process. So the next round is like 6 times higher.
Right.
So they gotta hit the KPI so that they can
make it that valuable.
Yes. And that KPI, that next round of funding is heavily based on your traction, right? And if you don't have something that is scalable, how do you achieve that number? So even if you have the money, you may deploy all that money and you don't get that result, and it's very hard to raise the next round. So you will either have to dilute a lot more, lose a lot more control, which is fine, but you might not be able to raise what you want to raise or what you need to raise if you can't hit that goal, right?
Dilution probably means probably you own 10% for 100,000. Now you're probably 5% for 100,000, something like that.
Yeah, so usually it's based on the valuation, right? So maybe your first round if you raise too much money in the beginning, it might be really hard. It's expensive, right? If a property price goes up really high, the next guy might not want to buy the house, right?
Yeah.
So it's kind of the same for startups, where if you raise so much money, if you raise 500,000 in your first round and you diluted, say, 20% of your company, that is a 2.5 million
valuation
ringgit company or dollar company. And so if you're not worth 2.5 million 1 year down the road,
then it's not.
Then why would anyone want to come in
buy more
higher than 2.5 million, right? That doesn't even make
right.
sense, right? So that's what's happening a lot in the space. And so a lot of investors will be like, okay, I funded you, you need to grow, you need to hire a lot of people, you need to scale your company. And so there's a lot of pressure because the money is not their money,
it's someone else's
they
money.
They have a tenure, right? So after 6 years,
we have a responsibility of doubling it or tripling it.
Yeah, so the fund managers, the investors have their fund, and their fund has to be returned back to their investors in a certain amount of time. So entrepreneurs need to do their job faster, kind of thing. And so there's a lot of pressure and sometimes inflation, artificial inflation of the company. So they use a lot of money that they have to buy traction when it's not really organic traction. So after the funding stops, it just drops, right? The company just doesn't perform as well, right? Because they stop burning money, right?
Buying viewership, buying
buying likes, buying whatever, right? So to me, I'm not a big fan of that. I think
I don't think so.
People should start out trying to build sustainable companies, and if you have a strong revenue stream, investors come to fund you because if you have something profitable, right? Yeah.
If you're really running a profitable company, I think no one will think, why should I not invest?
Of course, but sometimes you want to scale and all that. But the real metric is a healthy revenue stream, right? A good business creating lots of value. Right?
Would it be right to say that before you go looking for funding, you should be making some kind of profit, some kind of revenue?
Well, it really depends on who the investors are.
Okay.
So if it's your friends and family, you can go to them anytime, right? But I think generally, if you're reaching out to anyone from the public or an institutional investor like a VC, you need to have some kind of traction and some kind of past results, like you've done something before. This is kind of proven that this business can be scaled. There's a future here. Before you go out there and ask them for money, and you need to have a very clear plan. And the plan, your plan has to be clear not just for your product and your customer base, but for your investors.
The product has to be clear.
Yeah, I'm going to sell you how you are going to make money by investing in me. So I kind of have a plan for you as well, right? I can't just say, oh, this is a great product, invest, right?
Right. It's like a revenue stream for the projection, a financial projection for like maybe 3 years, 5 years, 10 years.
Yeah, so sometimes projections don't go according to plan, but that helps.
You have an idea.
But you have an idea of how you're going to plan to return your money, and it's not an unrealistic plan like, oh, I'm going to IPO the company, because like it's not
really
so straightforward sometimes, right? So what do you hope to do in the next 3 to 6 months? And how are you going to raise the next round? Do you plan to raise the next round? If you do raise the next round, then we got to start working towards that. You have a rough idea on what's happening next in your business.
The founders need to have like a clear-cut path, like a view on what they're going to do for the startup.
I think in the startup space, that's kind of important. Of course, if you're just selling something, you could make your own money. You don't need to go through all this kind of stuff. But many people in the startup space today, I'm not sure where this comes from. Maybe it affected us as well, but they read a lot of the media, and everyone wants to build a startup and raise a lot of money.
The media spoiled everything for us.
So there's this. There's this idea that is really deluded idea that like I have to go down this path. If not, there's no point, right?
Right.
But there are a lot of people out there. Like I just came back from other parts of Malaysia. There's a lot of people building really good, profitable businesses that are just not as big, but they're good businesses, right?
Yes.
So we don't need to succumb to the hype of building an Uber, right? But who knows? Maybe along the way, that might be.
It might happen.
Yes, it
actually,
might happen, right?
The founders of Uber didn't actually think that it would grow that big. They just wanted to solve a problem of having someone to pick them up instead of.
Yeah, it was more of I want to have a baller ride, right?
Yeah.
I get a limo. So it usually starts that way. Many of the greatest things start by accident, right? So when you try to engineer success, sometimes it doesn't
follow. It doesn't
take
happen.
place as fast.
Because there's like other uncontrollable factors.
Right.
Okay, so you've talked about funding, about the goal of the company. So
I mean, like there's a lot of I think a lot of the reason why there's a lot of hype is we got to understand fundamentally how media companies work, right?
How do media
how media companies work. So thanks to Facebook, right? Facebook has taken a lot of the attention away from websites.
Right.
So all the content is on Facebook, and people leverage on Facebook to distribute content. And so a lot of what used to be, media sites used to have a website where they can put ads and they can monetize their site.
Right.
Now all this traffic is gone and it's on Facebook, and so they can't make much money, and so they have to try to get a lot of hits to their site to try to like monetize from other streams. So the media space today is really a lot on hype and trying to clickbait, get people onto the site.
They put the wrong headlines, misdirect you.
Right. So one of those headlines is say, "Oh, this guy raised a lot of funding," or some really interesting angle. Right. It's all about the angling, and it's so that they can get more reach, and so they can do other kinds of monetization, because their core monetization of advertising is destroyed by Facebook right now.
Right.
So they've got to find other ways, maybe like guest blogging or something. So they got to show that, well, I got a lot of traffic coming to my site, right? And to get that traffic, sometimes they leverage a lot on hype and clickbait. And building a normal, happy, sustainable business is not catchy. But a 13-year-old who built 100 million using some blockchain thing, wow, that's interesting, right? So then everyone goes, so
they post those kind of sensational news.
Yes.
But so everyone is hyped up based on this. Oh, if he can do it, I also can do it. I should do it. I'm already a coder, I'm a programmer. So, and then they'll start gathering a group of people and like, let's make something.
Yeah, I mean I started quite young. So, when you're young, you can take a lot of risks, right? And there's a lot of, there's more people you can find who are available. Because more, when you just graduated, you feel you can take on the world, right? You feel that you can do anything. And so, if you hang around people who are like that, you definitely can start something, but it's a lot harder to sustain it over time, right? Because you need a lot of patience, a lot of the hustle is real, right? And building a company is not easy. There's a lot of expectations. There's so much to do in the first 2 years, and
even that, like the media doesn't share those point of views. Like suddenly one day Musk says that there's ups and downs and people only show the good things. That became a headline suddenly, as though no one knew about that.
Yeah, because the media already is focusing on him. But I think when we read the media a lot, even we run a media company, so we kind of know this as well. We only see the end result, right? Well, he's raised $100 million, or
he runs $6 billion companies.
Yes, but we don't know what he did previously.
True.
In fact, we don't even know what the investment deal was, right? Was it a good deal? Did they dilute a lot of their share? Who's in control? You don't see that. You see, they raised $2 billion, right? But what happened, right? On the media, it sounds very nice. Everything seems very nice, and it's like social media, right? So, but what happens behind the scenes is really a lot of work, a lot of pain,
sleepless
a lot of
nights,
a lot of people who will criticize you, your friends laughing at you. Hey, where's your BMW, bro? You've been doing this for 2 years, right? Where is it? Right? So, so you gotta be willing to put yourself out there, and you gotta be willing to deal with hate or criticism and
jealousy,
and really focus on. To me, I think it's really bringing value to the market or target market of people that would resonate with that value that you're trying to bring to the world. So if it's trying to deliver food faster, then you focus on that, right? You don't focus on what your friends are saying so much, or what the media is telling you about. Just do your part and do your job well. And I think the rest will kind of come naturally.
So like, let's say some people raise funds, like if you watch Shark Tank, they raise funds to get network of the investors.
Yes.
Like, well, does it really help, or not all investors are like that?
Well, I think one of the most important things about raising capital, especially in the early stages, right, before like you raise a lot of huge amount of money, is getting investors who can bring more value than money to your company.
Their contacts, their network.
Because I mean, you need connections to run a business effectively. You need people to open doors for you, right? And even if I give you 100,000 or 500,000 ringgit,
and I didn't know
you
where
don't have anyone who can open doors for you. You're gonna have to. You waste a lot of time.
Yes, building those bridges.
Yes, and when you waste more time, you end up wasting more money in the long run, right?
Definitely.
So connections is really important. A second thing is advice, right? I think there's a lot of investors out there who have probably built a company. They're very successful. They could bring you a lot of insight, like stop wasting your time here, do this, right? And you get very realistic advice, because I don't think anyone will want to give you a lot of advice just like that.
True.
Because there's no vested interest in it, right?
So I think the minimum fee is a coffee these days.
Right, exactly.
Some people are like, okay, treat me out for coffee. I'll talk to you.
Yes. So I think that's very important, getting good investors, getting people who really support you, giving emotional support, advice, money, and of course a lot of connections. They help you here, they open doors for you. And I think that's how businesses tend to grow a lot faster in the beginning. And once you have found that sweet spot, that's when you're ready to raise and scale and
then you
institutionalize the business more. Then you can go and look for venture capital and more of this kind of stuff. Yeah.
Like VCs compare like local investors and foreign investors. Is there like a preference these days? Like people like big names like some overseas. Sequoia used to be there back then, and they like foreign names instead of local names. Why is the problem like that?
Sometimes it's because of branding, but it could be because the firm has a lot of connections already. They're established. They have way more backing capacity than, say, a new investment firm. Generally, there's less. Like if you look at the venture capital space, I think there's a lot less VCs in Malaysia compared to, say, Singapore.
Right.
Singapore is a lot more.
Singapore is like a regional hub for them, right? To
yes,
look
there's
for
a lot of capital going in there. But there's also a lot of competition, and it's really expensive to actually run a business in Singapore. So there's a very high failure rate as well.
Okay. Yeah. Do you think like people have like misused funds for the wrong reasons? That's also a cause of their failure.
Oh, of course. I think that's very common, especially when they raise too much money. It becomes a lifestyle. It's more about paying yourself high, showing that you have raised a lot of money, rather than focusing on the business
building
and bringing value. You get carried away with parties, and
they want to network with the elite. High society.
So I think raising too much money sometimes is detrimental. One of the reasons is because the valuation is too high for the next guy, but sometimes you don't need so much money,
Right. At this stage, I'm developing a product. I might need only this much.
Yeah. So founders. I think there's many views to this, right? Some people think you should raise more, but I think you should raise what you need and maybe a little bit more for buffer.
A little bit more.
And so that your valuation isn't too high and you can actually raise the second round. You can. So That's something I think a lot of people don't understand. Like when they watch the media, wow, first round of funding, they raise so much money. Everybody wants to raise a lot of money.
So they want to raise higher than that guy.
Yes, you know, it's
and
like,
be in the
a
headlines.
competition of how much money they took from someone else, right?
So for this kind of things, let's say the founder is a tech guy, the CEO is like a young business exec, a CTO is there. Do they need to consult a proper financial guru or to set them off in the right path?
Yeah, I think that is really important. I don't know, but for me, I think I was quite arrogant back then, and I thought, all right, I'm just going to do it because, you know, I could do it myself, right? But I realized that if I had a mentor a lot earlier, and if I actually just took some of the advice that my friends and family gave me, maybe I would have been a lot more successful, and I would have maybe avoided a lot of stupid failures that I made.
But so, people actually glorify this rebellious behavior. I did it my way, those kind of thing.
Well, sometimes it takes two to tango, right? So maybe sometimes mentors or more senior entrepreneurs need to be a bit more tactful when they talk to young entrepreneurs. Try not to break their ego. You know, try to like talk to them in a way that, you know, resonates with them, so that they listen to you and they can, you know, take something, you know, good out of that. You know, take some advice
and then nurture that quality from them.
Yes, I think there's a lot of great entrepreneurs in Malaysia. That's one of the reasons why I built Beam, because I realized that, you know, we ran an event and people wanted to collaborate and raise capital. But what I realized is that there's just so many people who are driven and they want to build something. They're very motivated, and some of them are really smart people.
Yes, definitely.
It's just that maybe they don't really know how to start, or they may need a little bit of capital or support. You know, okay, let's try to bring that to them. You know, so that's one of the reasons why we continue doing this.
So like, there's a question here.
Yeah, sure.
Say our friend asks is like, he's asking, what are the signs for you to know that this is enough, this is the right time to give up? I've put in enough hard work.
Wow. Okay, that's kind of like a hard question for me, because like I don't encounter that situation very often. But I think you got to look at how much money you have left.
Okay.
How long more can you keep doing this, right? And if you have 3 months left and whatever you're doing now is not going to work.
Okay.
And for you to change what you do, it's going to take more than 3 months. It's about time to either find another way around this, or it's time to stop this thing and, you know, stop this madness and do something else that could be more profitable, or start, you know, reassigning resources somewhere else.
Okay, something that makes money immediately.
Right. So I think one of the key things is to continuously seek advice and validation. Like keep talking to mentors. Like, I'm doing this now. What do you think? So usually companies that have investors, this is usually better. It's okay because investors have a follow up on a regular basis with
They'll
them.
send their team to come and check
every
on you.
month. They have a chat. Like, okay, how are you doing? How's the how's the traction? How's the sales? Okay, it's not going well. What are you gonna do? But when you don't have that, usually you're like, just, you know, like, okay, I'm just gonna try this.
So this is why a good investor also like really helps, right?
Having investors is one, but sometimes you can't get them. So try to join programs like accelerators, or, you know, just seek out a mentor. You know, there's a lot of mentors out there that you could find. You know, if you can't find one, look for me. You know, look for someone on Beam. We can assign someone to you. We'll try to bring some value there. But I'm sure it's not hard to find a mentor.
Do you like let's say, thinking about the question, right? There's like a alcoholic addicts support group, Alcoholics Anonymous, people trying to give up tobacco or substances. Is there like a support group for entrepreneurs or failing or under depression?
We actually run that. We've run that before. We do run it, but we don't run it as often. But we do have friends who actually try to run it. In fact, I think there's one later today.
Today you are running like peer age group and other
I think
things.
it's called the peer age group. So that's a form of it. You can basically just sit there and talk to people and just gain insight from what they're doing. You know, yeah, I think that's very, very helpful. Yeah.
Like, but will it also lead to, like, let's say you're in a group of depressed people, will you become like one?
Yeah, that's why I think it's well, I think this is the way the event is run, right? So I think there's the moderator of the event or the host of the event has to kind of like put some measures in place to ensure that there's a focused topic, right? And that people share things that are relevant to, you know, education, right? Okay, this is how I failed, this is what I did, and then try to contribute. Okay, what do you think of this? You know, so there's got to be a balance in, like, you can't just go there and complain, right? That's not going to work, right?
You can go on complaining for the rest of your life if you don't do anything. Any other questions? Viewers, if you all have any questions, you can drop us, just comment on the video. We'll try to answer you. or even after the interview is ended, we'll still try to accommodate more questions. So do we have? Okay, one guy, Eugene says hello to Kenneth and me. Greetings from Penang.
Hi Eugene.
Okay.
Nice meeting you from Penang.
Penang, actually, I think they're growing in like co-working spaces and different types of startups.
Right.
Did you like check out, like they have like I think PictoChart and few
I think
others?
there's a lot of success there. I personally haven't really done much things there, but I think they have a pretty vibrant community from what I see. There are many community builders there who are doing many events and hackathons there.
Right.
So I think that's good. What we try to do is we try to reach out to areas that have less of this.
So like I think Johor is growing in this space.
Johor is growing. We have a great partner there from iPrima Media who is actually working together with us on this. We are looking at Ipoh as a place to really try to bring some more value as well. You know, there's a lot of bright people.
So like speaking about communities, right? How helpful is it in growing a successful startup, or is it more distracting when you're actually building a service or a product?
Well, I think it really it's like it's like in school, right? It's hanging out with this group of people who are really fun. Is it good for your studies or not? Well, it's subjective, right? I mean, like if you're happy, right? People tend to perform better when you're happy, right? And you're the average of your closest friends. Like you're the average of five people
around you,
right?
Yes.
So if you spend a lot of time with people who are very driven and people who are solution oriented and people who are in the startup space or mentors or whatever. You might gain a lot more than not.
Just being alone.
But if you're networking every single day and not building your business.
That's what I think is happening right now. It's like too many events and these founders want to be seen, want to be heard and mingle around these people. They are spending more time going for events, going for like all this.
Well, I think I think there's no fixed answer for this, but like it really depends on what they want. At the end of the day, if you want people to know you, and maybe it's a branding thing, I want people to kind of know me or build relationships, then that should be your focus. But if let's say that's not the priority right now, then you should be focusing on other areas.
Do you think it should come after you have made your product, or I think that would be better, right? Once you have focused all your attention in building your service or product, then you go and network and I
think a healthy balance is important for everything, right? You need a bit of networking in the beginning so you can get some help. When you have a product, maybe you want to spend more time, but I think balance is important in anything, right? You can't be doing one thing too much, right? It's
Definitely.
like a little bit of coffee is okay, right? Drinking 10 cups of coffee in 1 hour is crazy.
Yeah, you might actually die heart attack, man.
Yeah. So it's the same in all these kind of events, right? Like pick events that really can bring value for what you're looking for. So we have an event coming up on 23rd that is on marketing and helping people understand about advertising.
Like alternative marketing.
Right. So if you don't need this information, you don't care so much about it, then don't be there, right? But if let's say, okay, I don't have much money, I want to find a way to do marketing without so much cost, then okay, maybe this event is for me, right?
Okay.
And so you gotta choose wisely, and I think a lot of like success is decision making, right? It's where you decide to care, right? In areas that you care and don't care, right?
It's like you have 24 hours in a day.
So you gotta pick your battles wisely, and go where you need to be.
Okay, another thing I was like looking for a suggestion from you or advice is like you have like a certain amount of money, and how much do you put for marketing? How much do you put for human resource or co-founders, and how much do you put aside for actually developing the product and making it better?
I think this is something a lot of people ask me. I think every company is relatively different.
Okay.
It really depends on the needs of the company. So if let's say your product is shit, you need to spend a bit more time into making the product
polishing it.
And but I think generally in the beginning, a lot of money goes into salaries, into the workforce, right? In fact, a lot of money goes into OPEX, right? You need a healthy amount into marketing. Maybe I think 30% is
30% is
30. I don't really know the figure, but for us, it's around there. You need to continuously refine your product and find ways to refine your product in a cost-efficient manner. So one of the worst ways we found is through outsourcing, because once you outsource it, they build it in a certain way, then you try to build it in, get another guy.
It start all over
again. It gets
again.
really crazy. So this is something I see that we might be able to bring some value in. We are planning to run some maybe events on teaching people how to hire developers in the right way.
That actually really helped.
So But yeah, I think every company is different. What their needs are. Once your product is up and running and it's stable, you don't need to spend so much money and time on developing it. It's spreading the word, getting traction, doing road shows, going out there and hustling, right? So it really depends on the stage and the needs.
And even over time, your manpower allocation or your financial allocation changes. Like beginning, you're actually hiring developers. Later on, more towards like on the spot, like as you said, roadshow people. So you need more marketers. So do you let go of your initial developers or coders?
Oh, I think every company is different. But for me, I think if we hire someone, I think he's coming into our family, right? And there's no firing and bye kind of thing. But I think that's ideal, but that doesn't happen all the time, right? There are people who come and go. You hire this guy, maybe in a year or two, they realize that they found a better opportunity.
If he wants to leave, I mean, like, go ahead.
Yeah, so I think Richard Branson has a very good quote. Let me try to remember it. I think it's, you should train your employees so that they can leave, but take care of them so that they don't, So I think that's really important.
You prepare them for better.
Yes. I mean, you can't control people, so you just do your best to find that fit with them, right? I think one of our investors, Andrew from Think Big, said this before. He said that you don't need to agree on everything, but you need to be aligned. Right? Alignment's important.
Like you don't need to. You can have your fights.
But where you're going has to be the same. So it's usually when a company's end goal or what they're trying to do has changed course, and people feel like, maybe this is not what I came here for. That's usually when they start to leave.
Actually, you told like how startup scene is like a rock star event. Actually, bands actually dismember because of this. They initially started out to be a death metal band, and then they suddenly become like a punk rock or something. Founders leave.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's the same in a lot of cases. Can't blame people. Everyone has their choices. We just try our best to do whatever we can.
Is it proper to have like a prenup kind of thing? Like you got to stay with me for 2 years, 3 years.
Usually, I think in the early days, like founders, it is very advisable to actually have like a proper shareholder agreement, and shares have to be vested, so that if they do leave along the way, they keep what they have vested. But so that ensures some level of commitment, and of course everything should be in paper, so there's no dispute later. Oh, he said, she said, let's just put everything.
We have seen a few of those already.
Usually, when a company takes investments, this happens. I mean, this will naturally happen.
Another thing is like, let's say a company fails. So he has come to the end of it, he failed. What does the investor do to them, or what happens to their founding member group, or what happens?
Well, I think this is very broad. I mean, like, there's so many cases, right? Like, look at Uber, right? Now the investor is suing him, right? I think generally when a company fails, investors usually try to exit, right? If the company is pretty big, they try to liquidate whatever they can, try to salvage whatever is possible. Founders usually, it's a failure. There's not much you can do sometimes. So I guess to me it's really a stumble, right? You only really failed when you have stopped doing everything, right? So you might start again somewhere else, right? So what investors do, I think it really depends on the company. A
successful founder gets funded again normally for his next venture or his next series.
People invest in success a lot, but I think a lot of investors...
How about the failed guys?
Yes, I think investors tend to pick failures more. In fact, like, one of the things that I would do next time, is... A lot of investors tell me this, right? Because we work with many VC firms. They like to pick founders that have failed at least 1 or 2 times. Because then they know what failure tastes like. They have dealt with it. Whereas if you bring someone new in, they have never felt failure. When they're in the process of failing, that's when kind of the true colors come out, and that's when a lot
they
of
become a total different person.
A different person, and but when someone has failed, it's kind of like I know how that feels like. Kind of
and also, you'd have learned a lot in a short period of time.
Yes, I mean, failure is one of the best teachers. In fact, I think we learn more from our failures than from our successes. Right.
It sticks with you.
Yeah, I mean, like, you will never forget when you fail. It's like when you break up, right? So, it's necessary to succeed. I think failure, going through rejection, hate, jealousy, this is all part and parcel of on the way up to success. And it's okay. It's fine.
It's
you know,
okay.
don't focus your energy here. You know, focus it on things that matter, that are important to you. You know, it's really a choice, right? Every day. So I don't think anyone has really failed until they decide to quit.
Until they decide, you say like fall 3 times, stand up
Right.
4 times.
But you've also got to understand that doing the same thing again and again
Stupidity.
and again doesn't get you anywhere. So when you try again, try a different strategy,
different
try a
approach.
different approach. Try it with different people, try it with different money, amount of money, try different management, try it differently.
Even target market, like you were selling to the wrong market, they can try something like that, right?
Yes, of course. This is something we did as well. You know, we realized that one of the reasons why we failed previous business is that we targeted a market that wouldn't pay for certain things. Whereas in maybe say in Beam's case, there's a larger number of people who are more inclined to spending money. So it increases revenue stream, and at the same time, your business doesn't die as fast.
So it's like
right. So there's a lot of factors. Yeah.
In the 4-hour work week, they talk about like this 20-80 rule, like 20% of your clients pay 80% of your revenue. So
yeah, I
you
think
actually
for everything,
concentrate
like
on
20% of that, 80% of the things you do probably won't amount to anything, right?
Yes.
But 20% of the things you do would bring you massive success. You just have, if it's only 20%, it's like luck, right? People say a lot of business is luck. But if you did it 100 times, if your luck percentage is 1%, and you keep trying 100 times, your odds of success goes up, right?
Yes.
So yes, it's luck, but at the same time, it's consistency. It's trying again and again, doing new things.
It's a numbers game.
Being relevant, being consistent, being relevant. Yeah.
What else is like? So do you like have like some kind of insight of how not to fail? What will be like some ideas?
Yeah, I do have.
Or reduce the number of failure.
Well, I don't think we should try to reduce failure. I think failure is necessary. Of course, yes, you know, sometimes we can reduce it, but I think for me, I think the rule of thumb is that you should focus on bringing value.
Bringing value.
You should focus on trying to drive value. I'm surprised at how many people don't talk about this. They talk about creating a great design, a great product, a great this, a great that, but there's very little talk on the value. What do people get out of this? Why would they
Could you
use
share
the
like
product?
some product on how it created value?
Right, so like when Grab started, their goal, their value proposition was to provide safe transportation. And they communicated this value very clearly with the public, right? Many times entrepreneurs start an app that they want to build because they like the idea of the cool design, they want to be on stage, they want to be on whatever talk show, right? But that thing is useless, right? It doesn't bring any value to people. No one's going to download it. I don't need another app on my third page of the home screen. So that will never take off, right? So you may not even need an app. You may just need a website or a landing page. Find a way to bring the value as simplistically as possible. And once you've found that, okay, this works, then you try to bring more value by bringing a better user experience, you know. But if your basic value proposition fails, then I don't think this is even, whatever platform you have, how many, whatever design you have, maybe the design is the only value, you know, maybe you can sell the design, but as far as the product is concerned, you know, it's probably not going to take off, right? So we got to be realistic here. Like, okay, I spent so much time building this thing, but no one's adopting it. Sometimes it's just not going to work. The product's not working, right? So what's the value proposition? And I think like there's a lot of like business model canvas, all kinds of stuff that you can use to identify like, okay, who am I serving, right? What am I
your
serving?
Partners, your products.
What am I bringing to the table, right? So it really depends on the company's product, but I think if in the case of say Grab, they are bringing transportation, safe transportation to people understand that, people are willing to partner their money for that. And as long as the product delivers that, there will be continuous usage. Right?
So in case of Grab, I think pricing played an important role because when they came in, they were fighting another competitor at the time.
Yeah.
So
I mean, I think if you want to change behavior, the fastest way to change behavior is pricing, right?
Yes.
A lot of fast-moving consumer goods. You know, this is shampoo, $12. Here's another shampoo, $10. Okay, if it's the same, I'm going to buy the $10 one.
Right.
Behavior changes immediately. So it really, but you know, it really depends. But in some cases, branding and customer loyalty is dependent on say the user experience. Like say Apple, it's about the user experience and the uniqueness of the product. Yeah. So they don't focus on cheap. They focus on say this experience. So it really depends on how many
it's also like creating a cult, like a Harley Davidson rider. I am a Mac user.
Well, I don't want to get killed by the Android guys. So
It's like, okay. So I think.
Right.
Are we good? Like, all right. So, any more questions? No questions. Do you have like any last words for our viewers for today?
Yeah, I think keep delivering value.
Keep delivering
keep trying
value.
your best to deliver value. Keep hustling. Don't give up. Stay positive, and
Yep.
make Malaysia proud.
And
Yeah.
if you are looking into joining a community of investors, like-minded founders, and also looking for, I think, developers or anyone related to tech industry, check out Beam's app.
Yeah.
So
Just look for Beam on the App Store.
Uh-huh.
You're looking to find funding or collaborate with entrepreneurs, or just basically look for customers. Yeah.
right.
It's a great
So you're rolling out a new feature, Beam Broadcast. What's
Yep,
it
so
going?
we realized that a lot of people wanted to look for customers and they wanted to collaborate, but sometimes we don't know what they want. So
Okay.
it's easier if they just told us, okay, here, this is what I want, and it provides some context on communicating.
And we could also say that, hey, there's already a similar app like this.
I think there are many similar apps. It's just how it's used,
Okay,
right?
okay,
So for us, we try to bring it for the community that we have on Beam that are active every day.
Uh-huh.
And there's this same person that I'm talking to that is looking for this. I can try to
Okay,
connect with them,
collaborate,
and bring value for them, right?
Sometimes people with similar hobbies, interests, they could actually come up and create something as well.
Yes, definitely. So we hope that this sparks more collaboration, more partnerships, and I mean, for me, my dream in this case is to really see that a lot more startups are started, a lot more companies are built, and Malaysia grows and it becomes a more vibrant scene, and
Right.
there's more success. And we wake up one morning and like, wow, like because of this app, we can now live better, right? I think that to me that
one
drives us.
app will like,
Right.
that'll be beautiful.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. So we may not be very good at building cool stuff, but maybe
someone
we could,
else might
but
be
maybe
able
we
to-
could fuel or help someone else
Right.
do that. Right. So that's the reason why I keep doing what we do, and it's really incredible because a lot of people get back to me. They thank me sometimes, but they show us, okay, we're building this, and this has taken off. So it's really cool because some of them have managed to raise some capital, or so
Okay.
to us we don't care so much about this is the number, right? It's seeing that more people are able to make it. That's really
It's like
big.
you're empowering people to become entrepreneurs, solve a problem.
Right, and
Alright.
try to bring some level of insight and education so that the success rate is a little bit higher.
Okay, I think that's all for now.
Thank you so much.
And
for
that's all
having me.
for today. If you all have questions, you still can comment below, and also message VspireLab if you have any inquiries. Also, topic suggestions for future sessions. You can drop us a message, and we'll be taking a 2-week break. Is it? Yes, we are taking a 2-week break. We'll be back in 3rd week of September. All right. See you all. Bye bye.
Bye. Take care.